Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video.
19 years gone in one conversation. My 19-year-old wife, 46 male, informed me about a blind date set up by a friend. She went out with her buddy T for a ladies' night out. T reportedly her up with a man she had slept with a few weeks before. T was up with someone else and had set up my wife with the previous encounter. My wife left about 7 p.m. and returned at 3 a.m. that night. The revelation came entirely unexpectedly. She apologized, wants to work on our marriage, waterworks, and begged pardon. Because T had slept with him, she claimed that nothing transpired between her and the man. She knew agreeing to meet with him was bad, and traveling to meet with him was even worse. I don't think she's telling the truth when she says nothing occurred. She also said that the man worked at a sawmill and you earn more money, which is why I am the better choice. Essentially, she was admitting to deliberately attempting to replace me. This article would be a lot different if she could find someone with a higher earning job. My wife and T had a catastrophic collapse of their relationship not long after this girl's night out and before the disclosure. According to my wife, they went from closest friends to T as a liar and a manipulative, jealous person. I believe the confession, or partial confession, was made to prevent T from informing me about her affair with the man. Gaslighting me on the reality of what occurred by just giving me a portion of the story. Only enough to make things appear horrible, but not the whole heinous reality of what occurred. To be honest, I didn't need to know all that had transpired. Her narrative didn't make sense. There were just too many gaps in the plot. Little coincidences that happened around that time brought everything into sharp focus. I lost all feelings for her when she informed me about it. I became numb and didn't even become upset. I'm finished. At the moment, I'm just working on my departure plan. Getting your finances in order, finding a place to live, and so forth. It's awful that she's prepared to toss away 19 years of marriage with no respect for anything, even our 2 children. Update: she is now in full-fledged panic mode. She was just diagnosed with an autoimmune condition in which her white blood cells assault her lungs. Asthma episodes are caused as a result of this, which are untreatable by standard medicines. The only medication available to treat the disease has a cost of $13,000 after her Medicaid. There's no way she'd be able to afford it if I didn't have incredibly fantastic health insurance via my job. She is doing all she can to reconcile. Even arranging for couples therapy. We completed 2.5 sessions. Explains why she spoke the truth in part and wants to correct things. Counseling went just how I expected. Every session focused on everything I'd done wrong. Ever. This includes me working 50 hours a week to make ends meet since she is on partial disability and cannot work. By any stretch of the imagination, I'm not suggesting I'm flawless. Everything, including our 2 children, was raised up. Except that I was told that mentioning her date night was forbidden. About halfway through the 3rd session, the counselor looked her in the eyes and said, "If you have such a powerful radar to detect what everyone else is doing wrong, direct that radar at yourself and tell me what you are doing wrong." The proverbial erupted. My STBXW began shouting at the counselor, demanding to know why she was assaulting her when we were there to repair me. My STBXW stormed out weeping after a few minutes of back and forth. My STBXW has a profound animosity for me, according to the counselor, and I don't believe this marriage can be repaired. Yup, and nay, I basically said. I told the counselor that I appreciated her time and that we would not be returning. She offered me one-on-one therapy. I told her that I will most likely do so in the future and then continued to tell her about the taboo issue. Needless to say, that didn't surprise her and just served to reinforce her suspicions. Needless to say, the whole ride back to the home was spent discussing what a charlatan the therapist was. When I'm at home, I'm virtually on autopilot. I call it the house since it is no longer a home. I've taken over the extra bedroom. As far as I'm concerned, I'm married, but I don't have a wife. She would still be looking if she didn't require adequate medical insurance. I don't need to find T to acquire the whole tale. I reside in a little town of around 900 people. Every day, I travel to work in a larger city. Guess who ran into my STBXW on Monday of this week while visiting the community's lone grocery store? It's none other than the gentleman from the blind date. Small towns, correct? It was unavoidable. When he approached her, I was at the end of the aisle. He's a little man. Perhaps 5 feet 9 inches and 150 pounds. She had her back to me and had no idea where I was. Right in front of me, he asked her out again. She did, however, refuse. That's when I came in. I inquired whether he was the man she had a date with approximately 2 months ago. He inquired as to what it meant to me. I pushed him against the shelves and informed him I'd been her spouse for 19 years. I was afraid he was going to pee on himself. I'm 6'2" and 250 pounds, and I'm quite muscular. She attempted to persuade me to back down. I yelled at her to stop talking and to pay attention. She burst into tears right away. He informed me he had been told she was unmarried and begged me not to murder him. I inquired as to whether they had effed. He gulped hard and answered yes, and she sobbed even more. I promised him I'd never see him again. He apologized profusely and stormed out of the business. Her AP exposed her by being at the wrong place at the wrong time. I would have eventually gone into tea to obtain the tail if it hadn't been him. Needless to say, I'm mostly on autopilot. It's as though all feeling has vanished. I have to put on a happy front while I'm with my kids. I'm not sure whether it's an emotional self-defense strategy to prevent things from coming apart worse. I'm aware that I should be upset about this. It's going to strike hard one day. I no longer believe what I know to be true. Do my children really adore me? Or do they like the gifts I offer them? Do my parents agree? Do they adore the fact that I had outstanding scores in school? Have you ever gotten into trouble? Have you always had well-paying jobs? The only thing I know for sure is that I can't continue in this charade of a marriage. I wake up, go to work, and seldom ever eat or sleep. Strangers on the internet are the only ones I've told about this. I have no one to discuss this with. I move from day to day trying to be normal. Perhaps my STBXW was correct. The therapist does have to help me. Story 2. Accidentally cheated on my wife with a close mutual friend. The long and winding road. The other night, I went out with a bunch of buddies. We were all drinking and having fun. Except for a close buddy of mine, everyone had departed, so we proceeded to drink and play pool. After a time, a couple came over to play doubles with us. We were having a fantastic time when the woman inquired as to how long we had been together. My buddy shrugged it off, telling her that we were just friends and that I was married to one of her closest friends. "Well, I can almost taste the tension between you two," the woman said. We were all laughing. Let us fast forward a few hours. The bar is closed. I intended to get an Uber for my companion and a Lyft for myself since I was way too inebriated to drive home. After hearing about the previous attacks, she requested me to accompany her in her vehicle. I complied. That is the last thing I recall. Completely blacked out. I awoke on her sofa in need of a pee. I had never been to her house before, so I searched around for a restroom, located one, did my thing, and returned to the sofa. I had a fantasy after falling asleep that we were having. She's incredibly lovely, and we were having a terrific time in my dream. Something jolted me awake, and I discovered that I was in bed, what I believed was my bed, and there was a hand down my trousers. I was fully clothed, shoes on like a monster. I pulled my pants down, closed my eyes, and loved what was going on. I had lost consciousness. I recall rolling onto my side, in dream world, I reasoned, and repaying the favor. I opened my eyes to discover that there was a lot of light on my eyelids, and it was daylight. I observed her hair, which was a different color and cut than my wife's, thought to myself, wow, this dream is insane, and went back to sleep. I'm not sure how much time had passed, but my cell phone's alarm went off, jolting me awake. When I opened my eyes, she was nude on top of me, and I was inside of her. I made the mistake of not stopping it here. She slid off of me, grabbed my hand, and started stroking it. She then moved onto her side, against my will, and reached back to please me. I assumed I was dreaming and accepted it. After a few minutes, I turned over to enter her and recovered full awareness. We caught eyes, and I'm sure the expression of surprise on my face mirrored the one on hers, and she exclaimed, "What are we doing? This is not something we should be doing." I immediately fell back onto my back, attempting to piece together what was real and what was a dream, and understanding I had just cheated on my wife with one of our closest friends. We both stood up, she changed, I was still fully clothed, shoes still on, and we had the most awkward chat ever. The verdict: we were both blacked out. This shouldn't have occurred, it will never happen again, and it will never be mentioned. We've been out a couple more times since then, and everything seems normal, save from us chatting a little more than usual. We promise not to say anything about what transpired. Anyway, I'm sorry. I messed up. I feel terrible, but I know that telling my wife would hurt her and, most likely, damage our connection with one of our closest friends. I don't believe it's worth it to cleanse my mind. Yikes.